Hi, I'm Karen Kubicko, and today we're going to talk about, during a past life regression, how your subconscious protects you from what you're not ready for. So, your subconscious is your higher self, is your whole soul part of you. It's the subconscious part of you that you might not be completely aware of. It's also connected to all your spirit guides and angels and all the folks on the other side supporting you in this experience here in this earth plane. So when you experience past life regression, you might have the total gung-ho, I want to experience this, because you might have had an inkling or something like that for a particular kind of lifetime. However, even if you might have had a smidge of it come through, maybe there was a whole lot of trauma going on in that particular lifetime, or you just weren't ready to remember any of that kind of stuff because it's so much, too much, you weren't ready for it, that kind of thing. Your subconscious part of you will prevent you from going there because maybe you need to learn X, Y, and Z first, or understand A, B, and C before you get to that point. I've had quite a few lifetimes, some of which I included in this book, that were pretty traumatic. When people read that book and read through some of those lifetimes I had, they're like, wow, how did you remember all those details? I certainly didn't do it all in one day. Not in one session, really, because it was over several times, several sessions, some of which I got like a couple minutes of something when I first started remembering past lives, and then a couple years later I got some more information, and then when I was working on the book I got some more information and then some more information. It was a lot of effort. That story did not come through all at once. It was repeatedly going back to it, remembering what I had remembered already, and then expanding on that information. It's almost like when you are looking at a photograph and you see yourself and you know that's you. You're dressed in something dressy, maybe a costume of some kind for Halloween, let's say, for example, since that's coming up here, and you are not remembering all the stuff around it quite yet. But then after you think about it a little bit, then you remember, this information there and the day before, and then 2 years later you wore this and all that, and then you go backwards and forwards in time just from looking at that particular photo. It's no different when you remember a past life. You might go to a past life, you remember some of the good spots and the good times that you might have had in that lifetime, and you go back again maybe a few years later, you've done some inner healing work, and so now you're ready to remember maybe the death scene, or when that loved one in that lifetime passes, which is always the hardest thing, and it helps you prepare for that. And one lifetime that I had when I was a slave girl a couple hundred years ago back in Virginia, I only remembered the death scene of that lifetime. I knew kind of a little bit about myself, but it was a good solid 5 years before I was ready to go back and remember some of the more traumatic parts of that lifetime. In fact, there was so much yuck that happened in that lifetime that I couldn't even write about it in that book. It's pretty awful. So I definitely wasn't ready for that when I first started remembering past lives to begin with. I just kind of touched on it. I know I've had people come to me, they have an inclination where they might have been burned at a stake or something like that. Salem witch trials, other kinds of traumatic things that are really affecting them in this lifetime. And, they've come to me for a session and their subconscious is like, nah, we're going to go to this other place, or we're just not going to go there and remember all that. Or I'll have someone come to me for a past life regression. They'll remember so much of a past life, and I always want people to get the most healing out of a session that they can. And so I ask, hey, why don't you move forward in time just a little bit to go to see what the next important event is, maybe the death scene, because normally if you go through the death scene, then that's an easy way to access you being able to see your spirit guides, talk to them, see the angels, see the light. It's an amazing experience. I'm a big fan of allowing people to get through to that point, to have that experience too. But when someone's not ready to see their death scene or to go to a traumatic point in that lifetime, almost every time, this is what happens. They'll go to the very next lifetime, they'll just skip it, or they'll start to see, well, everything went dark. That's what they'll say. Or, I'm not seeing anything anymore. I kind of left that lifetime. I think I'm going into another lifetime now. They kind of avoided the whole situation. Well, that's just you and your subconscious protecting you, because for whatever reason, it's just not time for you to have that experience. There's no judgment. It's when you're ready. It's always for your highest healing. So if that wasn't for your highest healing at that moment that you were trying to have that experience, then it just wasn't time. And another thing too, and that I should mention, since I said the word trying, when you're trying to do something and trying to remember a past life, for example, you're pushing against it. The vision that they gave me of the difference between allowing and trying is like a bold, like if you can envision, I have flowers sitting here, I could probably pick one off and show you. They showed me a flower, and they said visualize like a big huge bulldozer pushing a massive amount of dirt and this little teeny flower right here. That's what trying looks like. But when you're allowing, there's no bulldozer. That little flower floats along in the wind and comes to you with ease. And so allowing the information to come to you will happen more often than when you're like desperately trying to get to a point, get to a memory, pretty much with a lot of things in your life. So when you remember a past life, you are open and ready to remember something. Start with something easy and then work forward on that. If you know that you're ready to do the hard work, then you'll go there. And if your subconscious and all that is part of you is on board with all that for your highest healing, then you'll remember it and you can heal from that. So don't give yourself a hard time if you don't remember something right away. Know that it takes time and you're worth it. So just be patient with the process. Lots of love to you. Remember to hit that like button and subscribe. Leave me a comment if you have any questions.